Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is urging and advocating that the Nigerian military should draw lessons from the Nigerian civil war to navigate current security complexities. And the federal government has pledged full support to help the people of Mokwa to rebuild their lives and communities after floods ravaged the area. Vice President Kashim Shettima is on the ground in the flood-hit town in Niger State. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimale here in Abuja. Let's begin by getting the thought of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is advocating and urging the Nigerian military to draw lessons from the Nigerian civil war to navigate current security complexities. The former president delivered a keynote address at the Army War College, Course 9 in Abuja, where he underscored similarities in the deployment of propaganda and disinformation by rebels to change narratives. According to the former president, he says there should be a deliberate study of military history and applying the lessons therein, and that is going to be crucial for the military to effectively tackle contemporary and future security challenges. Take a listen to former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Disinformation played a significant role in the Nigerian Civil War, exacerbating tensions and influencing public opinion inside and outside the country. The same strategy is currently being employed by the insurgents in Northeast and other violent groups in other parts of Nigeria. We must be deliberate and diligent in the study of history, particularly military history, to bring out and apply valuable lessons to our contemporary and future security challenges. History serves as the memory of the past, and will recall to serve the future.
Those are the thoughts of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Let me now bring you up to speed with the plans of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the Anambra governorship election. So earlier today, the INEC has published the final list of candidates for the 2025 governorship election in Anambra State. There was a statement released and signed by the spokesperson of the commission, a member of the board, Sam Ulumekun, says that a total of 16 political parties uploaded the particulars of their candidates from EC9 for the election scheduled for the 8th of November 2025. It said that with the publication, no further withdrawal or replacement of candidates will be allowed except in the event of the death of a candidate or running mate before the election. INEC also says that the deadline for the submission of candidates particular was 6 p.m. of Monday, May the 12th, 2025, but added that political parties were empowered by the Electoral Act 2022 to replace their candidates who voluntarily withdraw from the race until the 2nd of June. With that, we have some more information for you on your political roundup. And when we come back, Afenifere goes hard on the presidency, and the presidency has hit back at Afenifere. But what are the issues? The state of Nigeria, the second year in office of President Tinubu, but how has it fared? And these are some of the issues that we are going to be discussing tonight. Afenifere is back. But we continue the conversation after the political roundup.
Bayelsa State Governor Senator Diri says his administration will continue to ramp up its security infrastructure as a commission operational vehicles to aid law enforcement. Governor Diri handed over 31 new vehicles to heads of security agencies in the state and urged all the agencies to prioritize the effective use of vehicles in the security of the state.
I hand over these operational vehicles to the various security agencies, and we hope that it will enhance your smooth performance of your duties. And we hope that this will also be a wake-up call for most of the issues that we have been talking about.
The Supreme Court has nullified the decision of the Kebbi State High Court that reinstated Al-Mustafa Haruna Jokolo as the 19th Emir of Gwandu, declaring that the case was filed without first exhausting the mandatory domestic resolution mechanisms prescribed by law. In a late judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Ajib, the Apex Court held that while aggrieved persons are not barred from approaching the court, they must first comply with provisions of Section 5, subsection 4 of the Kebbi State Chief Appointment and Deposition Law, which requires formal complaints to the governor in before litigation. Meanwhile, the Department of State Service has reiterated its confidence in the rule of law as a civilized organization, and that is why it will always approach the court of law whenever it feels that there is an infraction on its statutory duties by anyone or the rights of its personnel. This follows after they filed a fresh application before the Federal High Court of Abuja, urging it to restrain Professor Patrick Utomi from further making public comments or engaging in rallies in relation to the subject of a suit pending before him over his announced plan to establish a shadow government in the country. Notwithstanding what some have described as a torrent of defection that has affected Nigeria's main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party (PDP), the party still maintains that the development will not shape their fortune in the next general election in 2027. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Mr. Debo Olugwagba, stated this at a news conference in Abuja, maintaining that the 2027 general elections will be a referendum between Nigerians and the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). The PDP spokesperson also described the 99th National Executive Committee meeting of the party that it held last week as a testament that the PDP is united.
I re-emphasize again, election 2027 is not going to be about defection of party. It's about the Nigerian people against APC and its policies that have reduced them into nothing, that have caused them so much pain, and families are being dislocated, people are being killed on a daily basis. Looks like new normal.
The APC in Niger State has received new entrants into the party while welcoming the new members led by Mr. Karim Adewale at the party's office in Okeado, Ibadan. The new members pledged to do their best for the growth of the party and also pledged support for President Bola Tinubu's administration.
Well then, there you have it, your political roundup stories. So let's tell you that the founder of the Citadel Global Community Church, Pastor Tunde Bakare, who also ran against President Bola Tinubu in the primaries of the All Progressives Congress (APC) about 2.5 years ago, had visited the president on a courtesy call at the president's residence in Lagos. The visit reportedly focused on critical national issues and the state of the nation. Pastor Bakare, during an address in April at his church in Lagos, called on President Tinubu to implement immediate and strategic interventions to steer Nigeria out of its mounting crisis. Take a listen to him.
My life personal vision is to see a nation that works in my lifetime. And those things I've discussed with Mr. President. They're not hidden things, but I've learned that when you discuss with the person in charge, you leave it with him to do whatsoever he wills with what you have suggested. So I've had a private conversation with Mr. President, and I'm glad that he received me well, and I trust that God will help our nation. I like to see good collaboration between the best of the North and the best of the South to steer Nigeria in the right direction. I'd like to see predictable progress in our nation. We have danced around some subjects for too long a time. It's time to take concrete action to ensure that the mercies of our country do not live in abject poverty.
Well, that's Pastor Tunde Bakare earlier today after visiting President Bola Tinubu in Lagos. So we've seen some physical and proactive, you would call it, move by the federal government in respect to what happened, the disaster in Niger State where flooding has killed over 150 people in Mokwa. The federal government now has pledged full support to help the people of that community to rebuild their lives and communities after the flood ravaged the area, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. The president is said to have approved the immediate release of 2 billion naira for the reconstruction of all the houses affected by the flood in Mokwa, Niger State, and Vice President Kashim Shettima has been on the ground on the spot assessment of the area and that visit in Mokwa following the devastation of the flooding and that destroyed lives and property and left hundreds displaced. The vice president says that the president has authorized the immediate release of 20 trucks of rice to be delivered to the victims and assuring that President Tinubu's heart is with the people. Vice President Shettima also says that all the issues affecting the people would be addressed. The vice president visited the flood-hit town in Niger State where he announced immediate relief measures and long-term rebuilding efforts. Let me allow you to listen to how the mind of the federal government is working in this respect and some of the things that the vice president said when he did the on-the-spot assessment.
The president was personally distressed by what happened in Mokwa, and he directed me that I must visit Mokwa and commiserate with the people of Mokwa and the government and people of Niger State over the sad tragedy that had befallen this community, and to assure them that the federal government, in partnership with the state government, will do whatever it takes to rekindle hope in the minds of our people. Under the Agri-Sat project, the federal government will take care of the drainages in Mokwa town. Yeah, the president has already directed the Minister of State for Agriculture to relocate to Mina for the next 1 week to see that 20 trucks of assorted food commodities are delivered to this distressed community. Most importantly, we have to find windows of rebuilding lives and hopes of the people. The federal government will expend 2 billion naira in partnership with the Niger State government to see that homes destroyed by this flood are reconstructed. Human lives can never be compensated, but we can give them hope for a better tomorrow. This is why the president is very empathetic, very much worried, very much concerned about the plight of the hundreds of thousands of our people affected by this disaster. Most importantly, we are on ground. We are going to rebuild the bridges. The federal government, under the able leadership of President Bola Tinubu, has already directed the Federal Minister of Works to immediately embark on the reconstruction of the 4 destroyed bridges.
All right, that's the Vice President Kashim Shettima there in Mokwa, Niger State, on the spot assessment of the aftermath of the flooding that's ravaged that community. So let's get to what has become some kind of concern for the presidency, because there are now reactions to from the president to what a group in the Afenifere, socio-cultural group in Yoruba socio-cultural group has said in assessment of the presidency and the 2-year in office of President Bola Tinubu. And so the group has been described as jaundiced in his assessment of the president's 2-year in office. And the group in its assessment had hit at the president, describing the performance in the last 2 years as a total failure. The president was inaugurated on the 29th of May 2023 for a 4-year tenure And while assessing the president's tenure, Afenifere, in a statement by his leader, Oladipo Olaitan, and the spokesperson, Justice Faloye, says the administration's performance over the past 2 years has witnessed a regression in human development, economic mismanagement, and democratic backsliding. However, the presidency, in its response, says that through a special advisor on media and public affairs, Sunday Dare, says that raising concern about what they call a penchant and deliberate attempt by the organization to find fault and trade in deceit instead of objectivity. But let's get more insight into what exactly this group means and the import of what he said, because is it that the presidency misinterpreted what he said? How objective is this group? A group that has been described by a factional group in the Afenifere socio-cultural group. I'm being joined by Mr. Faloye, who is the spokesperson of that group. He's live for us in our Lagos studio. Thanks so much indeed for joining us tonight on the program.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now, let's begin. It does look like the presidency does not see your group as the authentic Afenifere group. And there's a way that the presidency has described your group. It does look like it's been seen as a faction of the authentic or the real Afenifere group. Can you please clarify for us?
There's only one Afenifere group, which is what I belong, and which supported the president initially in 1999. What we have had is the president coming to raid Afenifere or attract some people away from our ideology for prebendal motives. But like they said we were rebellious, and we asked that when the president himself joined us, he rebelled against the military, Abacha's government. So maybe there's a similarity between his government and Abacha's government. That's why we have become rebellious again. So
now,
but there's nothing.
Because
there's
we do
nothing.
know that. Oh, just a moment. If I may, let's clarify. Afenifere is one group that I covered for a while, and I seem to understand the structure and how it works. It does look like a Parfassorati, but a lot of people is seen as the ultimate Afenifere leader. Are you of the Parfassorati group?
Parfassorati was the leader up to 2021 before he resigned. In public space, you have his letter of resignation, and he selected Pa Adebanjo as the substantive leader after him, and Oba Olaitan as the deputy leader. When Pa Adebanjo died, naturally the deputy leader, Oba Oladipo Olaitan, became the leader. So there is no way somebody who has resigned out of his own free will due to age can now come back. That is not possible.
No, but because there are issues when Baba Adebanjo was still here, when he was alive, as to whether or not he's a leader of Afenifere, and there's a whole lot. So you are saying that Oba Olaitan is directly takes over from Chief Adebanjo. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. That is the situation. That is, he is the new leader, and nobody can doubt what Afenifere is about. We push for the people. We are about abundance for all. And there is no way President Tinubu and the government can talk about abundance for all when we have about 54% poverty. In their response, they did not touch on the issues. We brought out the figures of GDP, that he took $366 billion economy from President Buhari, and is now estimated to be 180. That poverty went from 38 to 54%. Those are the issues, not about who is the leader. The issue is that Nigeria, now they come out and say because of to save $10 billion. You want to save $10 billion and you destroyed an economy of over 180 billion? You see, sometimes maybe because the high rate of illiteracy in Nigeria, that's why some of these things fly through. You talk about, you remove a subsidy that helps 200 million people, and you are telling us that you have given 5 million people palliatives, and these palliatives are rice, whereas what you have done is remove the subsidies from petrol. But you see, we have gone ahead from that, because when they did it, of course, it caused inflation. Now, the second problem was this: you are not addressing what type of inflation it was. It was a cost-push inflation, but you are treating a demand pull inflation, that there's too much money and you raise interest rates. Now, once you raise interest rates, you kill all businesses. They said they've done this, they've done that. They have destroyed 7 million businesses in 2 years. Let them mention 7,000 businesses they've created. So when you come up with this these tiny projects, this tokenism, that's what we call it. Tokenism, that's what we have. What is the GDP? What did you get when you came into power? What is it now? What is the poverty rate? And upon all, you say because of 10 billion subsidies, you have now taken nearly 100 trillion in just 24 months debt. You got 87 trillion debt, and that debt this year is going to become 188. So it's not about which Afenifere or this Afenifere, that is just beating the bush. What is happening to Nigeria? Are we going to go back to 59 billion that we were in, in 1999?
Before we get into the meat of the matter,
yeah,
there are those who have disputed the leadership of Oba Olaito, and they said whether or not Reuben Fashion is still alive, and that Oba Olaito cannot claim leadership of Afenifere. We've heard about several kind of Afenifere renewal group. There are Afenifere has had leadership issues in the past, and there are those who say, look, Oba Olaito, the leadership upon which you act, Mr. Faloye, is not authentic, is not known to the authentic structure of Afenifere, the original Afenifere. And that's why the presidency, and of course you do know, the relationship of the president, the sitting president, to Afenifere, and say, look, you are not known to Afenifere's structure. Let us clarify that, the propriety of the leadership upon what about Olaito is
the leadership. The leadership was that when Pa Fashionati resigned, and he's like a grand uncle to me, when he resigned, he made Baba Adebanjo the acting leader, and he made Oba Olaito as the deputy leader, and he resigned. Now, after Baba Adebanjo died, naturally, we went to the caucus and the general meeting, and they ratified Oba Oladipo Olaito as the leader. You see, and like I keep on saying, the proof of Afenifere is in the pudding. You see, all this problem came, and it's so painful, that it was Baba Fashionati that started the handshake across Niger, and that it was right to support the Southeast. This was a project that he started. Then he retired, and after that retirement, President Tinubu went down there and convinced him to come back and reverse the very project that he started. And then you're now telling us that what is fake on... No, Nigerians know it. Yorubas know it. Who and what is the original Afenifere? The proof of Afenifere is in its activism, is in its core, is in its ideology. It's not about who has the Agbada or who has... No, it is about what the people... we follow Awolowo's principle of welfareism. This government is a neoliberal government. Total opposite ideology. So you cannot claim that one side that is backing him with his his neoliberal economics is the right Awolowo group. Awolowo group is the one that believes in welfare.
Now, so how do you react to the presidency saying that you are, there's a language that was used that you are, is it notorious now, group of Afenifere?
He said we were rebellious or something like that. That was laughable.
Rebellious, rather.
Yes. He said we were rebellious.
Rebellious,
but,
yeah.
The president did not join Afenifere as an Owambe party. He joined it as a rebellious party, and it's that rebellion that got him as the governor that he went through in Nadeco. When you fight for people, when you want the best, people can say you are rebellious. But it's not about being rebellious, it's about being truthful. It's about pushing it. We have enough to go around. And you see, and again, apart from that, we also talk about social democracy. We talk about having a fair country, restructure. Instead of him restructuring, he's destructuring. He's destructuring this federation. And that is the problem, because he goes to court through the Supreme Court to get local governments. Local governments are the administrative units of states. Federal government has no business with it. He's done that. He's taken over states. And yet you are denying that you are obviously going to a one-party administration. We had hunger strikes, and teenagers were locked up. And you're telling me that that's not totalitarianism? I wonder what it is. And they come out as not propagandalist. You took $10 billion, all subsidy money, destroyed the economy, and you now give a contract that never went through any due process, $11 billion, and gave it to a friend. Come on. A lot of people may feel quiet, decide to be quiet.
Let's begin the conversation around your assessment of the Bola Tinubu administration and this government of the APC. First and foremost, in summary, you said that this government has failed Nigerians in the last 2 years. First and foremost, let me ask you, is that a fair account of, or the fair analysis or assessment of this government 2 years in office? When you say they have failed Nigerians in their performance, does it mean that there's no iota of any good that this government has done for Nigerians in the last 2 years?
Well, an iota could be tokenist. It could be tokens. For example, he comes out with 20,000 houses a year. We give birth to 20,000 people every day. That's 6 million people. We have 30 million or about 30 million homeless. If you build 20,000 houses, That's going to take a full 1,000 years. 1,000 years before every Nigerian can even dream of having a roof over their head. Is that performance? You tell me. Because when you look at other countries, let's take China, let's take India. You have two sectors of the economy. You have the consumption, you have production. At the consumption end, you see that any country that wants to develop builds houses. And especially Nigeria, that has the highest homelessness in the world. Houses is where your consumer market starts. Your television, your food, your everything. If we are short of that, and if your government is building is building a house for 20,000 people when you have 20 million homelessness, then you're not doing anything for the consumption. When you go to the production side, at the basis of industrialization, of true industrialization, and I'm not talking of imports and exports and all that, if you're going for real industrialization, we should know that from the amount of railways that you build. In China, they build 15 kilometers of railway every year. In India, it's about 14 kilometers. When America, even in 1800s, wanted to start its industrialization, it was building 5 kilometers every year. If you build 5 kilometers every year in Nigeria, it covers what you have built for the whole 100 years. We have only about 4,000 or 3,000 railways, of kilometer. So what exactly are we doing? He came out because we're totally against, you know that Chief Awolowo talked about free education. Now, you put students on loans and say, okay, maybe some technical colleges should be free. What we have said is that STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics should be free if you are serious about uplifting this country. What about our health? A report came out yesterday saying that Nigeria is the worst place in the world for maternity. We have the highest maternity mortality rate. And somebody is coming out and telling me, we are doing, what are you doing? The figures are there. Your viewers can just pick up their phone and Google what was the GDP of Nigeria in 2023. What is it now? What was it in 2014 when APC came to power? Check the poverty rate. Check the employment rate. Check your GDP. It's not, this is not rocket science. It's at the tip of your fingers. So, but you realize that they never address those figures. They now start throwing these cherry-picked figures of no meaning. And even not only of no meaning, you now have to ask that, oh, so you took out the production power of 200 million people and you're giving them rice. And that rice is only for 5 million people. They have, you see, the government should have just kept quiet.
Look at this way. You said, yeah, you said in your midterm assessment of the president that every human development and socio-political index has regressed.
Yes.
Is and that mathematically, factually correct?
Yes.
Statistically?
We stand by that. We stand by that. Our GDP has gone down.
What are the indices you're talking about? What are these indices you're talking about?
GDP.
What are these indices you're talking about?
Yes, GDP, 1, poverty rate, health, homelessness, education. The amount of schools, out of school children has risen. Name it. All the important aspects of our national life has gone backward. Is it corruption we want to talk? He talks about a better do. Where is the conviction? What has happened to the court? They talk about EFCC arresting 4,011. I would very much like to know how many of them were politicians. So
now, for me, is the question that there are those who will think that it may not be right, and the presidency disagree with you, that all the indices of development and growth had regressed. There are growth in aspects of the economy. The economy was badly hit by some of the decisions and policy of the government as soon as he got into office. But as time went by, especially in the later part of last year and early part of this year, there seems to be some positive traction in the economy, which shows that some aspect of it may have been improving, and that's why some people may not agree with you in totally that every aspect of economy and human growth have regressed. It means that you do not see any good whatsoever in what this government has done.
If you fall and you reach rock bottom, of course you have to get up. We got to rock bottom. So, okay, they also said in April, inflation went down. But when you have had inflation of 30, 40% for 18 months, and then you suddenly, it stabilizes. Of course it's going to stabilize. You can't fall forever. But you see, I have to go back to the beginning, because in the president's manifesto, I think it was page 36 or 34, he specifically stated that the subsidies will not be removed until the refinery works. He did it. So what now happened was a cascade of errors. After he committed that error, then there was the error of increasing interest rates, which only now allowed for speculation and not production. And it's like a drunken sailor trying to find his balance. But what we are saying is this. You see, because it does not pay Afenifere for Nigeria to be bad. Because at the end of the day, these politicians do not buy petrol. They use government money for petrol, for their food and co. So it's the commoners, is we. And as long as we are Afenifere and we have the interests of the people at heart, we want the government to succeed. But we keep on telling the government that, look, this and this is what you should do. Stop all this propaganda. You see, we say that once you know your offense, once you know where you are, then it's halfway. But if you are fooling yourself that you are doing good, then you will not make the amends, the necessary amends. This year alone, 13 million people are going into poverty. 30 million people are at the brink of starvation. So, those indices that they may try and manipulate, they don't really occur. Go to Lagos. I mean, we're in Lagos here, where you go everywhere. The whole streets are, everybody's indoors. You wonder, has everybody jackpot, or they've just, they can't go. Everybody is, even the rich are struggling right now.
Let's take a breather. But when we come back, more on what the presidency said in defense of the administration's effort since President Bola Tinubu got into office 2 years ago, get attention as response towards what they termed the rebellious Afenifere group has said in the performance of this government. We'll be right back after this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone. The rebellious Afenifere group, that's how the presidency described them when they came hard on the president and described his administration in the last 2 years as a failed performance. And the presidency has reacted, rebuffing whatever they've said. They said, look, these are not based in fact. In fact, the presidency, in their reaction, has said the presidency, through the policy, has saved, for example, saved the country billions of naira due to the removal of fuel subsidy. And tonight, the spokesperson of the group, Mr. Faloye, is speaking with us from our Lagos studio. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Let's get back to the conversation about what Nigerians should be expecting, what Nigerians have received, the promises made by this government in the last 2 years. So the presidency's reaction says that a balanced assessment based on available data reveals a more objective and progressive picture with significant achievements amid the challenges expected from a country like Nigeria with decade-old problems. If you look at the statement from the presidency, it says you are oblivious of the fact that the government has saved Nigerians from age-long disaster policies and the audacious move by this government to make the very tough decision past governments couldn't have done. Will you vilify this government on behalf of your group in Afenifere that it has taken some very tough decisions that other leaders found it difficult to do? And if you look at the major 3 economic decisions that this government made in the early days, would you say those, and they would say that those were part of the campaign promises made by other presidential candidates and other political parties? Will you vilify them for taking those called tough decisions?
First of all, it is not, these figures are not created by Afenifere. We have had IMF say that it might take 100 years before we get out of poverty. This is the same policies and the World Bank. So we've had World Bank, we've had IMF say practically the same thing. None of those figures are from Afenifere. They are from World Bank. They're from the government's National Bureau of Statistics. They're from Debt Management Office. We don't manufacture figures. Now, with regards to subsidies, I think it really has to do with ignorance. Because when you say the other governments didn't do it because they knew that it wasn't right. You see, they've turned subsidies into a dirty word. It's like, but 25% of the expenditure of Britain is spent on subsidies. They subsidize everything. America subsidizes everything. The International Energy Agency puts subsidy at 7% of the of the global economy on average. We have countries with 30%, 20% of Nigeria's own was less than 2% of our GDP. Now, what exactly is this social contract between Nigeria and the government? We pay taxes, we put all our collective to you. What do you do for us? You can't give us free education, you can't give us free food, you can't help us to produce. Because the most important part of that oil subsidy was its production element. Practically 80 or 90%, about 90% of production in Nigeria is based on petrol. Now, when you now skyrocket that, what you have is cost push inflation. And they are unforced errors. Because if you say that 10 billion, it's 10 billion they say they've saved in 1 year. But how many billions did you lose from the economy? Because that 10 billion has a multiplier effect on all other sectors of the economy of over 100 billion. So what kind of, and this money that was taken, we haven't seen it.
So let's look at the facts as presented by the federal government. Just for a moment, the federal government has said that if subsidy had gone on, Nigeria would have spent over the last 2 years about $10 billion. Now, it said that the removal of subsidy has saved the government over $10 billion in 2023, while the exchange rate unification boosted foreign reserves and helped Nigeria record an 18.86 trillion trade surplus. Those are the facts presented by the federal government as against your assessment or your own your own figures.
The simple question is, what is the cost of cutting that $10 billion subsidy. It's 100. You cannot say you are cutting 10 billion and cost us 100 billion. You have devalued the currency to increase money into the government, whereas you have killed businesses because we rely on imports, manufacturing imports. Now, when you say you let your currency float, no country floats a currency without giving a minimum. And the minimum that any currency should be allowed to float downwards is 5 to 15%. You actually watched this, our currency lose 100%. That's criminal negligence. If not brought in on economic treason.
So, I mean, if other presidential candidates said they were going to remove subsidy, how else do you think that this government could have gone about it? So, sir, what exactly are you criticizing?
Sir, what
the effort
saying
of
is
removing subsidy or the manner in which the money that is being saved from the removal of subsidy is being used?
Sir, there's one thing we have to get right. When we're talking of other presidential candidates, that's politics. We're talking of governance now. Peter Obi is not in government, Atiku is not in government. We're talking about this particular government. If it was Peter Obi who came into, or Atiku who came into, and it happened, we will complain. We are talking of you who is in power. I don't want to, and in your, let us note this. In President Tinubu's manifesto, he specifically said that he will not remove those subsidies until the refinery comes in. Now, when he got to Paris, he told us that the spirit got over him and he took it out and destroyed millions of businesses because of some spirit without any logical, no logical summation, no logic. And we say these things that when you say subsidies, there is a matter of subsidy. This is why we're a society. This is why we're a federation. It's give me, I give you. And we pay taxes. Congregate all that money and give us a cheaper education. Give us security. And it's not only that. It's not only the economy that we're talking about, because what President Tinubu has known from Nadeco, is that this economy, this constitution has to be restructured. And we're not even talking for management purposes. You cannot be managing the resources of our local government in Abuja. You cannot have a central police force. And like we wrote in there, for every person that is dying, the 10,000 that has died, it's at the foot of the president. Because he should do the right thing. Restructure and give state police so we can protect ourselves. We have a right of self-preservation.
Quickly, Mr. Faloye,
yes.
Quickly, if I may jump in. If we go on and on, the economy is just a broad one. Because in response to some of the criticisms and the assessment of Afenifere under the Oba Olaitan leadership, the presidency response will say some of the monies that we have saved, we've been able to reach 5.7 million households in cash transfer. NEL fund school loans have been given, and allowances of NYC students, graduates, have been raised from 33,000 to 77,000. They will say that there are palliatives in the CNG buses, revitalization of over 1,000 primary health centers, training of 150,000 youths under the 3 million technical talent program. They ruled all of these out. But one thing that actually got out to me from your assessment is that you have said as a group that the government of Tinubu is corrupt. What is the evidence and what have you seen that could give us a graphical representation of what you are describing as a corruption of the Tinubu government?
Even they have accepted in there that we had the Betty Edu situation. We've heard of, there was like over 1,000 infractions in our budget. You deliver the largest contract in Nigeria and even probably Africa without going through due process. We can list on and on. It's a catalog of you understand, from the budget to the ministers. But you see, there's one thing, because me personally, I don't hamper too much on the corruption, in the sense that I've been in Horizon and seen other countries, and I've seen that we keep on going. This was how we shouted corruption under Goodluck. What we are talking right now is that what is this government doing it? What are you doing for the people? Now, you listed all those, and I told my secretary to help me add up all those figures that they listed and compare it to how many people have actually gone into poverty. That poverty has increased from about 80 million to 130 million. It's gone from 38.9% to 54%. So how? This, when you list 5 million people, which is about 0.4% or 0.25% of the country, whereas you have put even the minimum wage increase, which was about 38%, only got to 4.1% of workers. Only 4.1%. So what is happening to the majority? Is it going to be this kind of for select few? People are starving. Nigeria has gone, we had 574 GDP in 2014. Buhari took off about 180 million from that in 8 years, and now we have had Tinubu take that exact 180 million off our GDP in just 2 years. You really have to wonder what is going to be by the time we get to 2027, if there's anything left.
Yeah. Mr. Faloye, one other area that you pointed out that got me, and perhaps is kind of a source of concern for any Nigerian, when you said that this country is drifting towards authoritarianism, meaning that the governance and the freedom of speech or expression of the citizen is in jeopardy or is at risk. What are the signs that you have seen? Because this is a major factor. If you say under a democracy that our nation is drifting towards authoritarianism, what do you mean by that? What are the examples that you have seen?
That the way they go against simple protests. A democracy accepts the right of citizens to protest whatever they feel is wrong. But when you start criminalizing protesters, especially underage protesters, when a musician or others, whoever talks against the government is railroad or beaten or locked up, then you have a problem. Look at they were even beating media personnel during the last demonstration in Lagos. So when we look at that and different aspects of the society, and you wonder that everybody's scared to talk. We had a NYC girl who just said just a simple word, and they came out and hounded her. We had Idris hounded. The international committee had to come out before they released those teenagers. These are things that Nigeria, and it's painful that President Tinubu, who actually fought and built his career on democracy, is the one doing this. And it makes people wonder that these activists, they just talk. Once they get into power, they become dictators.
All right. Justice Faloye is a spokesperson of the Afenifere group described by the presidency as the rebellious faction of Afenifere. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Just before we go, let's tell you that the governorship election tribunal in Ondo State has affirmed the election of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa as the duly elected governor of Ondo State in the governorship election conducted a few months ago. The tribunal that sat on the governorship election petitions in the Ondo governorship election has affirmed the election and the victory of Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa. That's how we wrap up the program tonight. Many thanks everyone for watching. I'm Sean Walking Malay. See you tomorrow, God willing. God bless Nigeria.